Upon inheriting his father's company, Millionaire disguises himself as a janitor to get to know the employees. When he discovers the manager's plan involving his daughter, he is terrified. Thomas felt the weight of the world on his shoulders as he gazed at his father's empty office. Isaac, a visionary and determined man, had built a real estate empire from scratch. Isaac's tragic death in a car accident had left a void not only in Thomas's life, but also in the company. At 43, Thomas found himself the unexpected heir to the grand real estate company, a role for which he was never truly prepared. He recalled the days when his father took him to work as a child, proudly showing him every building, every project. Isaac had always believed Thomas would take over the company, but the reality was that Thomas had chosen a quieter life, far from the stresses of business. Now, the responsibility was in his hands. Thomas was not only dealing with his father's death, he was also mourning the loss of his wife, Bianca, who had tragically passed away during the birth of their daughter, Emily. Since then, Thomas had remained a widower, dedicating himself to raising his daughter and now facing the challenge of leading his father's company. Thomas's decision to disguise himself as a janitor came as an unlikely and audacious idea. He knew that to truly understand the company and its employees, he needed to see everything from a perspective he had never considered. With the help of Rachel, his loyal housekeeper, Thomas began preparing for his new role. Rachel, a practical and efficient woman, couldn't hide her astonishment when Thomas revealed his plan to her. However, her loyalty and trust in her employer made her accept the challenge of teaching him the basics of cleaning. Thomas, who had never concerned himself with such tasks, found himself in an unusual situation, learning to use cleaning products, scrub floors, and dust furniture. The following days were filled with practice and adaptation. Rachel laughed at Thomas's struggles, but also admired his determination. For someone who had always been served, the act of cleaning was an exercise in humility and learning. And Thomas knew that this was only the beginning of a journey full of challenges. Meanwhile, his 18-year-old daughter Emily faced her own challenges in the company. Working as an intern, she had already noticed that something was wrong. Employees whispered in hallways, suspicious glances were exchanged, and there was an atmosphere of conspiracy. Emily, always perceptive, soon suspected that there was a plot against the company. One night during dinner, Emily decided to share her concerns with her father. "Dad, I think there's something strange going on in the company. Some employees are plotting against us," she said with a worried expression. Thomas, attentive and concerned, listened to every word his daughter said, knowing that he needed to act cautiously. It was then that Thomas decided to establish a plan with Emily. "We can't raise any suspicions, Emily. I'll continue with my janitor disguise, and you need to keep your distance from me at the company. We'll find out what's happening, but we need to be careful," Thomas instructed, his mind already working on strategies. With the plan set, father and daughter prepared to face the challenge ahead. Thomas knew that to protect his father's legacy and ensure the company's future, he would need to uncover the truth behind the suspicious actions of his employees. And so, with the janitor disguise, he was ready to dive into the heart of the company and face any adversity that came his way. Thomas arrived early at the company that day. Dressed in a simple janitor's uniform, he felt nervous but determined. It was strange to be in such a familiar place and yet feel like a complete stranger. The glass door with his father's company logo seemed like a symbolic barrier between the old and the new Thomas. As he entered, he was greeted with a few curious glances, but nothing that discouraged him. He headed to the janitorial room, where he picked up the cleaning supplies. His footsteps echoed through the company's hallways, his company now where he would go unnoticed. That was exactly what he wanted. While he adjusted the supplies on the cleaning cart, he heard firm steps approaching. Looking up, he saw Ernest, the real estate manager, a 37-year-old man known for his rigidity and arrogance. Ernest stopped in front of him, looking him up and down with a disdainful expression. "You must be the new janitor," Ernest said with a sneering smile. "I'm Ernest, the manager of this real estate company. I hope you know what you're doing. We don't have room for incompetence here." Thomas remained calm, taking a deep breath. "Yes, Mr. Ernest, I'll do my best." Ernest laughed, a harsh and unpleasant sound. "You better, because a simple janitor like you will never know what it's like to be in a position like mine. You were born for this, cleaning up other people's messes." Thomas felt his blood boil, but forced a polite smile. "Life goes in circles, Mr. Ernest. Who's on top today might be at the bottom tomorrow." Ernest frowned, confused and irritated. "Is that a threat, janitor?" "Not at all, sir. Just an observation," Thomas replied, keeping a humble tone. Ernest shrugged and walked away, muttering something about how that janitor wouldn't last long. Thomas watched as he walked away, feeling determination grow inside him. He knew he needed to investigate Ernest, to find out what was behind that arrogance and suspicious behavior. But for now, he needed to focus on his cleaning task. The first day was a mix of learning and patience. Thomas cleaned tables, swept corridors, and scrubbed floors, always keeping a keen eye on what was happening around him. He noticed how the employees reacted to his presence, some indifferent, others curious, but no one seemed to suspect his true identity. At the end of the day, exhausted but satisfied, Thomas went home. Emily was already there, looking worried when he walked in. That night, as Thomas and Emily gathered in the kitchen for dinner, the tension in the air was palpable. Emily, always perceptive, noticed the worry on her father's face. He had come back from work exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally drained after his first day disguised as a janitor. "Dad, how was your day?" Emily asked, breaking the silence. Thomas sighed, stirring his food with his fork. "It was tough, Emily. Ernest is even more arrogant than I imagined. He introduced himself to me, making it clear that he considers me nothing more than a mere janitor. It was humiliating, but also revealing." Emily frowned, concerned. "Did he say anything specific?" "Yes, he made it clear that a janitor like me would never understand what it's like to be in a position of power. He has an incredible superiority complex, and it seems he feels secure now that my father has passed away," Thomas replied. Emily hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Dad, there's something I need to tell you about Ernest." Thomas looked up, noticing the seriousness in his daughter's voice. "What is it, Emily?" "Since Grandpa passed away and he found out I'm his granddaughter, Ernest has been trying to get close to me. He's been more arrogant, but he's also trying to win me over somehow. It seems he thinks that if he can get close to me, he can gain some control over the company," Emily explained, her concern evident on her face. The revelation hit Thomas like a punch to the stomach. Anger bubbled inside him, but he took a deep breath to calm himself. "This is unacceptable. He's trying to use you for his benefit." Emily nodded, feeling vulnerable but also determined. "Exactly. We need to find out what else he's plotting. I'm sure he's involved in something shady, Dad," Thomas agreed, his mind already working on a plan. "We need to act carefully. We can't raise any suspicions until we have concrete evidence. I'll continue posing as a janitor and watch his movements. And you, keep doing your job as an intern, but stay away from Ernest as much as possible." "Of course, Dad. But how can we start investigating without being discovered?" Emily asked, anxious. "I'll start by observing his interactions and listening to conversations. If he's really involved in something illegal, he'll leave clues. I also need to find a way to access more confidential information without him noticing," Thomas said, mentally mapping out the next steps. Emily seemed calmer but still worried. "Be careful, Dad. Ernest is dangerous. He won't hesitate to do anything to maintain his power. Thomas held his daughter's hand, squeezing it gently. I know, Emily, but we'll get through this. We're in this together, and we'll protect your grandfather's legacy and ensure that this company stays in good hands. With a plan beginning to form, Thomas and Emily felt a bit more prepared to face the challenges ahead. They knew it would be a difficult fight, but they were determined to uncover the truth and protect their family and the company from any threat Ernest posed. The next morning, Thomas entered the company with the same determination as the first day. Dressed again in the janitor's uniform, he began cleaning the corridor near Ernest's office, waiting for an opportunity to investigate further. He knew this would be the perfect time to gather valuable information, since Ernest had a habit of going out for lunch, leaving his office empty for at least an hour. Before leaving for lunch, Ernest walked past the corridor where Thomas was working. He stopped and, with an arrogant smile, said, "Janitor, I want my office spotless. If it's not shining when I return, you'll have to deal with me. Understood?" Thomas remained calm, hiding his irritation. "Yes, Mr. Ernest, I'll take care of it." Ernest let out a disdainful laugh and left, leaving Thomas with a sense of urgency. Once he was sure Ernest was gone, Thomas entered the office and began cleaning, but his attention was focused on finding any clues. Every drawer he opened, every document he flipped through, he looked for something that could incriminate Ernest. While cleaning the desk, Thomas found a notebook hidden among some papers. As he leafed through it, he realized it contained notes on financial transactions. Knowing he had to be quick, he took photos of the pages with his cell phone. Then, he found a flash drive connected to Ernest's computer. Thomas quickly removed it and put it in his pocket. Thomas took out his phone and sent a message to Emily. "Meet me in Ernest's office, it's urgent." A few minutes later, Emily discreetly entered the office. "What did you find, Dad?" Thomas showed her the notebook and handed her the flash drive. "We need to check what's on here. This could be our chance to uncover what Ernest is doing." Emily nodded and sat in Ernest's chair, connecting the flash drive to the computer. With a few clicks, she accessed the files, and her expression changed to a mix of surprise and indignation. "Dad, these are all records of embezzlement. He's transferring money from the sales and rentals of luxury apartments to personal accounts. This is huge," Emily said, shocked. Thomas felt the adrenaline surge. "We need to gather all this evidence. Take photos of the documents and make copies of the files. This will help us incriminate him." Emily quickly took photos of all the relevant pages in the notebook and copied the files from the flash drive to her own device. Meanwhile, Thomas continued cleaning the office, maintaining an appearance of normalcy in case anyone entered. Once they finished, Emily put everything in her bag and prepared to leave. "And now, Dad, what's the next step?" Thomas took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of what they had discovered. "We'll compile all this evidence and keep it safe. We need to make sure Ernest doesn't suspect anything. We'll continue to observe and gather more evidence if possible. Once we have enough, we'll take it to the police and expose everything during a company meeting." Emily agreed, still processing the enormity of the situation. "All right, I'll keep an eye out for any suspicious moves by Ernest, and I'll keep my distance from him to avoid raising any suspicions." Thomas smiled, proud of his daughter's determination. "We're doing the right thing, Emily. We're going to protect your grandfather's legacy and ensure this company remains in good hands." With a more solid plan and concrete evidence in hand, Thomas and Emily felt more prepared to face Ernest. They knew there was still much work to be done, but they were ready for any challenge that came their way. The next day, Thomas resumed his cleaning routine with the same determination. As he mopped the floor of the main corridor, he noticed a woman who seemed frustrated and exhausted. She was muttering to herself, clearly upset. Thomas decided to approach her carefully. "Excuse me, can I help you with anything?" he asked, maintaining the humble posture of a janitor. Samantha looked up, surprised to see someone showing concern. "Oh, it's nothing. Just Ernest, as always," she sighed. "He's been unbearable lately." Thomas seized the opportunity to introduce himself. "My name is Thomas. I'm new here, just starting out. And you, what's your name?" She smiled, a grateful smile for his concern. "Nice to meet you, Thomas. I'm Samantha. I've been working here for many years, and seeing how things have changed recently is very frustrating." Thomas saw an opportunity to gather more information. "He seems like a difficult boss, doesn't he?" Samantha let out a bitter laugh. "That's an understatement. He used to be a good manager, you know. Competent, fair, but ever since Mr. Isaac passed away, Ernest has changed. Now he only thinks about money and power. It's like he's become a different person." Thomas leaned in a bit closer, pretending to adjust the cleaning bucket. "What do you think caused this change?" Samantha looked around, making sure no one was listening. "You know, I always thought Ernest had ambitions, but I never imagined he'd do something dishonest. Now he despises all of us, especially those who don't agree with his methods. And there's something you don't know. He started treating me differently, more arrogantly and sometimes even threateningly." Thomas sensed the sincerity in Samantha's words and knew she could be a valuable ally. It must be tough working under those conditions. Samantha nodded, her eyes showing a mix of frustration and sadness. "It is, but I need this job. I've worked hard to get here, and I can't just give up." Thomas, placing a reassuring hand on Samantha's shoulder, said, "Don't worry, Samantha. Sometimes things change in unexpected ways. Keep doing your job the best you can. Life can take surprising turns." Samantha looked at him, intrigued. "You speak as if you know something I don't." Thomas just smiled. "Let's say I have a hunch. Be patient and stay strong." She smiled back, grateful for the unexpected kindness. "Thank you, Thomas. I'll try to remember that." With a nod, Thomas returned to his work, feeling that he had gained a new ally. The conversation with Samantha strengthened his resolve to expose Ernest. He knew that with people like Samantha by his side, he would have a better chance of protecting the company and his father's memory. At the end of the day, Thomas returned home to find Emily waiting anxiously. "Dad, how was your day?" Thomas told her about the encounter with Samantha. "She confirmed our suspicions about Ernest. He's changed a lot since Grandpa passed away. He's more arrogant and focused on power and money, but she's also someone we can trust." Emily smiled, satisfied. "That's great. Having someone on the inside who supports us can make all the difference." Thomas agreed. "Exactly. And we need to stay vigilant. Ernest can't suspect anything. We'll gather more evidence and ensure that when the time comes, we're ready to act." With another ally by his side and the unwavering support of his daughter, Thomas felt more confident. The battle was far from over, but each day brought them closer to truth and justice. That night, Thomas and Emily gathered in the kitchen, temporarily transformed into a base of operations. The table was covered with documents, photos, and a laptop. Emily connected the flash drive they had obtained from Ernest's office and began opening the files. "Let's review everything again, Dad. We need to make sure we haven't missed anything," Emily said, determination in her voice. Thomas nodded, picking up the notebook of financial transactions he had photographed earlier. They began comparing the information on the flash drive with the notes in the notebook, looking for inconsistencies and additional evidence. "Look at this, Dad," Emily said, pointing to the laptop screen. "There are large transfers to accounts with names not related to the company. Ernest is clearly diverting money to these accounts." Thomas frowned, anger rising within him. "This man is destroying your grandfather's legacy out of sheer greed. We can't let this continue." As they continued reviewing, Emily found something that caught her attention. "Dad, there's a purchase note here. It looks recent." Thomas took the document and read it carefully. "A diamond necklace? That's an expensive item, even for someone in Ernest's position. Did he use embezzled money to buy this? Emily did a quick internet search and found the specific necklace. It's an extremely expensive necklace. It's practically impossible for someone who is just a manager of a company unless they're stealing money. Thomas's indignation was palpable. He's using company money to satisfy his personal luxuries. This is unacceptable. And if he bought this necklace to try and win someone over in the company, Emily seemed to think along the same lines. Dad, what if he's trying to win me over with this necklace? Remember what I told you about him trying to get close to me? Thomas closed his eyes for a moment, trying to contain his anger. This man has no limits. He's willing to manipulate and corrupt anyone to get what he wants. We can't let this continue. Emily nodded vigorously. We need to use this information to expose Ernest, but we have to be careful. He still doesn't know we're onto him. Thomas took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Right, let's compile all this evidence. We need to do it meticulously to ensure he has no way to escape the accusations. They spent the night organizing the evidence into a detailed dossier. Every suspicious transaction, every incriminating document, and the purchase of the diamond necklace were included. Emily took high-resolution photos of the documents and backed up all the digital files. We're going to do this right, Thomas said, a determined gleam in his eyes. When we go to the police, we want to make sure Ernest has no way to defend himself. He needs to pay for everything he's done. Emily agreed. We're ready, Dad. We just need to find the right moment to expose all this. And when the time comes, Ernest will find out that life really does come full circle. The next morning, while Thomas was at work, pretending to continue with his janitorial routine, Emily received an unexpected delivery at home. It was a small velvet box, carefully wrapped. Upon opening it, her eyes widened at the sight of the diamond necklace that she and her father had discovered in Ernest's records. Emily took a deep breath, trying to contain her anger and disgust. Along with the necklace, there was a note. For a young woman as brilliant as these diamonds, I hope you like it. Ernest. Emily knew she needed to tell Thomas immediately. She grabbed the necklace and the note and quickly drove to the company. Upon arriving, she found her father in one of the corridors. Dad, you won't believe this, she said, showing him the box and the note. Thomas took the note and read it, his expression turning grim. This man has no limits. He really thinks he can buy his way to what he wants. Emily nodded, determined. This only reinforces our need to expose Ernest. We need to act quickly and precisely. Thomas took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Let's plan a meeting to expose all this. We need to ensure all employees are present and that the evidence is undeniable. They sat down in an empty meeting room and began outlining the plan. We'll call a meeting to introduce the new owner of the company, Thomas suggested. It will be the perfect opportunity to publicly expose Ernest. Emily agreed. We need to make sure everything is ready. We'll prepare a presentation with all the documents, photos, and transaction records. And we need to coordinate with the police to be ready to act when we present the evidence. They spent the afternoon fine-tuning the final details of the plan. They created a detailed presentation, organized chronologically, showing Ernest's suspicious behavior, the fraudulent transactions, and finally the purchase of the diamond necklace. With the presentation ready and the evidence organized, they began preparations for the public meeting. Emily sent a notice to all employees, summoning them to an important meeting in the company auditorium the following afternoon. The notice mentioned that the new owner of the company would be making a presentation. Thomas, meanwhile, contacted the police, explaining the situation and sharing the evidence they had gathered. The authorities assured him they would be present at the meeting, ready to act as soon as the evidence was presented. That night, Thomas and Emily reviewed the plan once more, ensuring everything was in order. We're ready, Thomas said, determined. Tomorrow, Ernest will find out that life really does come full circle. Emily smiled, confident. We'll bring justice for Grandpa and protect our family's legacy. With everything prepared, father and daughter went to sleep, knowing the next day would be decisive. They were ready to confront Ernest and expose his actions, ensuring that the truth prevailed and that the company was protected from the corruption that threatened it. The next morning, Ernest walked through the company's corridors with an air of authority. He had received the notice about the important meeting and knew that all employees were expected to attend. After all, the new owner of the company would be introduced, and Ernest was eager to meet his new boss and perhaps impress them with his dedication. Ernest gathered all the employees and, with his usual arrogance, ordered everyone to be in the auditorium promptly. I want everyone in the auditorium at 2 p.m. sharp. This is an important meeting, and the new owner will be introduced. I won't tolerate any delays. Meanwhile, Thomas and Emily were backstage, making final adjustments to the presentation. The nervousness was palpable, but both knew they were prepared. At exactly 2 p.m., the auditorium was packed. Ernest sat in the front row, eager and confident in his role within the company. He could hardly wait to meet the new owner and perhaps solidify his position of power. Emily, with her heart racing, stepped onto the stage. She looked at the audience and began to speak firmly. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a very important day for our company. As you all know, my grandfather Isaac recently passed away. He was a great leader and built this company with much effort and dedication. Emily paused, feeling the emotion of the moment. Today, we have the honor of introducing the new owner of the company, someone who will continue my grandfather's legacy. Ernest was attentive, with a slight smile of anticipation. He looked around, trying to guess who the new boss might be. Emily continued. But before officially introducing them, I would like to invite everyone to see some important information we've collected over the past few weeks. She projected onto the screen the evidence she and Thomas had gathered. We discovered some suspicious activities within the company and, after a thorough investigation, found evidence of fraudulent transactions. The tension in the auditorium increased. Ernest frowned, uneasy. Emily proceeded, projecting the records of fraudulent transactions. Here are records of fraudulent transactions carried out by Ernest. He diverted money from the sales and rentals of luxury apartments to personal accounts. And that's not all, Emily said, as she projected the image of the diamond necklace. This diamond necklace was purchased with embezzled company funds, and Ernest attempted to bribe me with it. A murmur of shock and indignation spread through the audience. Ernest stood up abruptly. This is absurd. Who is behind these ridiculous accusations? At that moment, Thomas stepped onto the stage, his calm demeanor contrasting with Ernest's anger. I am behind these accusations, Ernest, and they are not ridiculous. We have irrefutable evidence of what you did. Ernest looked at Thomas, incredulous. Who the hell do you think you are? Thomas looked directly at Ernest and said firmly, I am Thomas, the new owner of the company and Emily's father, and I'm here to ensure justice is served. Ernest's expression changed from surprise to desperation. This can't be true. You're just a janitor. Thomas remained calm. Life takes turns, Ernest, and now it's your turn to face the consequences. At that moment, the police officers who had been standing at the back of the auditorium approached the stage. We have an arrest warrant for Ernest for embezzlement and fraud, announced one of the officers. Ernest tried to protest, but was quickly restrained by the officers. This is a conspiracy. You'll regret this, he shouted as he was led out of the auditorium. Thomas and Emily looked at the employees, who were stunned, but many of whom were relieved and grateful. This company will continue to follow the values of my father and grandfather, Thomas said firmly. Together, we will ensure the integrity and success of our company are preserved. The auditorium erupted in applause. Thomas and Emily felt a wave of relief and accomplishment. Justice had prevailed, and Isaac's legacy was safe. After the meeting, many employees approached Thomas and Emily to express their support and gratitude. Samantha, in particular, was emotional. "Thank you for doing this. You saved the company and honored Isaac's memory," Samantha said, tears in her eyes. Thomas smiled, finally feeling at peace. "We all did this together. Now, let's rebuild this company and ensure it continues to thrive." Emily hugged her father, proud and relieved. "We did it, Dad. We did justice for Grandpa." With Ernest out of the company and operations returning to normal, Thomas knew it was time to reorganize the leadership team. He needed someone competent, trustworthy, and familiar with the company from the inside. The choice was obvious: Samantha. The morning after Ernest's arrest, Thomas called Samantha into a meeting in his new office. As she entered, Samantha seemed a bit nervous, but maintained her professional demeanor. "Good morning, Samantha," Thomas began, smiling at her. "Thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss the new structure of the company with you." Samantha nodded, trying to hide her anxiety. "Of course, Mr. Thomas. I'm at your disposal." Thomas gestured for her to sit down. "Samantha, you have been an exemplary and dedicated employee. Throughout all the recent chaos, your integrity and commitment to the company have been evident. That's why I would like to offer you the position of manager." Samantha was momentarily speechless, surprised by the unexpected offer. "Mr. Thomas, it's an honor. I don't even know what to say." Thomas smiled, encouraging her. "You deserve it, Samantha. I know you will do an excellent job and continue to help the company prosper. Additionally, I believe your leadership will bring a fresh start for all of us." With tears of gratitude in her eyes, Samantha replied, "Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. I promise I will do my best and not let you down. I'm very grateful for this opportunity." Thomas stood up and shook Samantha's hand. "I have full confidence in you, Samantha. Let's work together to ensure my father's legacy remains strong and alive." Over the following weeks, Thomas and Samantha began working closely together. Their professional relationship soon transformed into a friendship. Thomas admired Samantha's dedication, and she, in turn, appreciated Thomas's vision and commitment to the company. One evening, after a long day of work, Thomas and Samantha decided to have dinner together to discuss some ideas for the company's future. Sitting in a quiet restaurant, the conversation flowed easily, moving beyond business and into personal aspects. "You have been a great help, Samantha," Thomas said, raising his glass for a toast. "The company wouldn't be where it is today without you." Samantha smiled, clinking her glass with his. "Thank you, Thomas. But you have been incredible too. The courage to disguise yourself as a janitor to better understand the company and expose corruption is something few would do." They laughed together, sharing stories and memories. Over time, the closeness and mutual respect between them grew, leading to a deeper bond. Samantha saw in Thomas not just a boss, but a friend and a potential partner. That night, as they said goodbye, Thomas felt something different. He knew something special was forming between them, something that went beyond the professional, and Samantha, looking into his eyes, felt the same. "Good night, Samantha. Thank you for this wonderful evening," Thomas said, smiling. "Good night, Thomas. It was truly special," Samantha replied, feeling her heart warm. As time went on, the relationship between Thomas and Samantha continued to blossom, both at work and in their personal lives. They found strength and support in each other as they continued to lead the company toward a bright future. The following months brought a new dynamic to the company and to the lives of Thomas and Samantha. Their relationship, which began as a strong professional partnership, evolved into something deeper and more meaningful. Thomas and Samantha often met outside of work. Occasional dinners turned into park walks, long, meaningful conversations, and weekends exploring the city. The bond between them grew naturally and sincerely, filling the void they both felt in their lives. One afternoon, while they were at the park, Thomas turned to Samantha and said with a smile, "I never thought I would find someone as special as you, Samantha. You brought light into my life at a time when I needed it most." Samantha smiled, gently touching Thomas's hand. "I feel the same, Thomas. You showed me that life can take wonderful turns, and I am very grateful we found each other." As their relationship blossomed, Emily watched with joy. She saw how happy her father was and how Samantha brought a new sparkle to his eyes. One evening during dinner, Emily decided to express her support. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Emily began, smiling. "I am very happy for you and Samantha. It's clear that you two complete each other and bring out the best in each other. I fully support your relationship." Thomas was surprised but touched by his daughter's words. "Thank you, Emily. Your support means a lot to me. Samantha is an incredible person, and I feel like we are building something very special together." Emily nodded, with a caring expression. "I know, Dad, and seeing you happy makes me happy too. We are all starting fresh, and that's wonderful." As the relationship between Thomas and Samantha strengthened, the company also began to recover under their new leadership. With Thomas at the helm and Samantha as the manager, the atmosphere in the company changed dramatically. Transparency, trust, and respect became the pillars of the new management. The employees, inspired by Thomas and Samantha's example, began working with more dedication and enthusiasm. Productivity increased, and clients noticed the difference in the quality of services. Projects that had been stalled were resumed with vigor, and new business opportunities began to emerge. Thomas and Samantha spent many hours at the office, discussing strategies, planning new projects, and ensuring that everyone in the company felt valued and heard. Their collaboration was seamless, and it was reflected in the results the company was beginning to achieve. In a team meeting, Thomas spoke to the employees with pride. "I want to thank each one of you for your hard work and dedication. We are rebuilding this company together, and I am confident that the future will be bright for all of us." Samantha added with a warm smile, "This company is a family, and we are committed to ensuring that each of you feels part of that family. Let's continue working together and achieving great things." The applause echoed through the meeting room, and Thomas and Samantha looked at each other, knowing they were on the right track. The company was not just recovering, but also growing stronger and thriving. In their personal lives, Thomas and Samantha supported each other, finding comfort and happiness in the little things they shared. Together, they discovered that love could blossom in the most unexpected moments, and that second chances were truly precious. Over time, Thomas and Samantha's relationship became a source of inspiration for everyone around them. They showed that with courage, integrity, and love, it was possible to overcome any challenge and find happiness and success. As the company flourished and the romance between Thomas and Samantha grew, everyone involved knew they were living a new beginning filled with possibilities, hope, and true love. While the company thrived under the new leadership of Thomas and Samantha, the consequences of Ernest's actions finally came to pass. After a long and meticulous investigation, all the evidence against him was presented in court. The conviction was swift and severe. Ernest was sentenced to several years in prison, but due to his cooperative behavior during the trial and his lack of a criminal record, the judge decided to reduce the sentence, allowing him to serve part of it through community service. Ernest was assigned to clean the streets and care for public spaces in the city. Dressed in a community worker's uniform, Ernest walked through the city's streets, pushing a cleaning cart. Every sweep and every mop movement were bitter reminders of his past arrogance and greed. As he cleaned graffiti and collected trash, he reflected on his actions. "How could I have been so blind?" Ernest murmured to himself. He recalled his arrogant words to Thomas, not knowing he was the new owner of the company. "I thought I was in control, that I could do whatever I wanted. Now, I'm here, cleaning the streets." The days of community service were long and exhausting. Ernest found himself with plenty of time to think, revisiting his decisions and the devastating impact they had on his life and the lives of others. He remembered how he tried to bribe Emily with the diamond necklace and how his unchecked ambition led to his downfall. "I deserved this," Ernest admitted, looking at his calloused hands. "I was greedy, arrogant, and selfish. I didn't see the value of the people around me, only the value of money and power." While Ernest reflected on his failures, the company he tried to destroy flourished. Under Thomas and Samantha's leadership, the real estate company not only recovered, but also prospered. New and innovative projects were launched, employee morale was high, and the company's reputation in the market was impeccable. Thomas and Samantha, with the help of Emily and all the dedicated employees, built a work environment based on trust, respect, and collaboration. They ensured that everyone felt valued and an integral part of the team. The company grew exponentially, attracting new clients and properties. With the company thriving and justice served, Thomas finally had the chance to reflect on his journey. He remembered the moment he inherited the company from his father, the initial difficulties, and the unexpected twists he faced. The decision to disguise himself as a janitor seemed distant now, but it was the catalyst for so many significant changes. Thomas was sitting in his office, looking at the panoramic view of the city. His father's and grandfather's legacy was secure, and he felt a deep satisfaction in having fulfilled his promise to protect the company. He thought about how much he had grown personally during this journey. From a man uncertain about his abilities to a confident and respected leader, a light knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Samantha entered, smiling. "Thomas, everything is ready for the afternoon meeting. How are you feeling?" she asked. Thomas stood up and walked over to her, holding her hands. "I feel great. All of this was only possible because of you and Emily. Speaking of feelings, there's something I wanted to discuss with you." Samantha looked curious but hopeful. "What is it?" Thomas took a deep breath and looked deeply into Samantha's eyes. "Samantha, you have brought joy and balance into my life in a way I never imagined. You stood by me in the toughest moments and celebrated the victories with me. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Samantha was speechless, tears filling her eyes. "Thomas, I love you too. Yes, with all my heart." Thomas hugged her, feeling a happiness he had never experienced before. The wedding was planned quickly, with the enthusiastic help of Emily and the couple's closest friends. The ceremony was simple but full of love and joy, reflecting the essence of Thomas and Samantha's relationship. And so, with the support of Emily and the company's employees, Thomas and Samantha began a new chapter in their lives, ready to face the future together with love and determination. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought about the story. See you in the next video.